but it's just doing a, oh, I suppose the bit rate's too low. We're live. We're live? Oh, we're live now. Okay.
Something.
Okay.
Continue.
Yeah. If you can.
Yes.
Oh, God.
Click on it. Yeah.
So there will also be a new approach to managing stormwater. At the moment, council retains legal responsibility for stormwater services. Now we can continue to develop that ourselves in-house, or we can contract that out with the new water organisation. Okay, submission of the water services delivery plan. It must be submitted by 3rd of September unless an extension is granted. It's unlikely so if the Minister of Local Government considers it unlikely that the council will submit a compliant water services plan by the deadline, they can appoint a Crown facilitator to assist council in preparing that plan. If it's not submitted in accordance with the deadline, we can be asked to resubmit it. If the Minister again can appoint a Crown Water Services specialist at our expense to prepare the plan for council to adopt. So there's the Crown facilitator and a water services specialist. They have different roles, but they're appointed by the Minister, and they can effectively develop a plan and inform council to adopt it. DIA will be liaising periodically, so Department of Internal Affairs will be liaising periodically with us prior to September 25 to check in on progress. And Jason and I have had a number of meetings already with the department and just kept them abreast of our progress. And they're aware of the meeting we're having today. Look, I'm not going to go into a lot of the consultation process because I'd rather concentrate on the model. But we do have to follow a consultation path. Now, how we do that and when we do it is something that we probably need to come back. We can either do it as part of our annual plan process, however that time is quite tight, or we can do it at a later stage and separate the two processes out. But there's quite a lot of information that we do have to, there's information that we have to mandatory provide as part of the consultation process. So that really comes down to your delivery model. What delivery model are you proposing? So you got to identify two, but you have to then put forward a preferred. So we talk about two in the consultation process, but we have to nominate a preferred. They say that you can be silent on financial sustainability and affordability, but when you see the graphs, we've got to give the community some form of vindication in terms of what each model potentially looks like. I won't go into this, it's covered off in my paper, but that's what really financial sustainability means. It's revenue sufficiency to make sure that we can deliver our water services. And there are some funding arrangements through LGFA, which we won't go through today, but we will need to talk to elected members at a different briefing, depending on what model we end up proposing. Okay, so we've got until 2028 to make sure that we are financially sustainable. And again, the Minister's got powers there to introduce a Crown water specialist or a Crown facilitator to help explore financial sustainability. Not going to go through this, Mr. Mayor. These are just roadmaps for implementation. One is around legislation, clearly talked about that. The other one's around water services delivery and submission of water services plan. And then there's some economic regulations that are starting to be in place. And then environmental regulations as well. So the Cabinet has provided 5 options for councils to consider. They go through, as talked about, option 1, which is an internal business unit. Option 2 is a single council-controlled CCO organisation. Number 3 is a multi, similar to Entity A that we had previously under the former government. And then you can get into this mixed model, consumer trust-owned or consumer trust-owned. So I talk about each of those in the paper, so for time's sake, I won't go through them individually. They all have their different company shareholder makeup, and each of them have obviously different requirements. This is just more detail of each of those individually talked about. This is just provides a high-level summary. It's covered off in the slide deck, so I won't go through that. So the other piece of work that we have been doing, Mr. Mayor, is starting to explore how we deliver Kaipara's two waters. And we looked at a whole lot of, well, we looked at 9 options. And the options range from status quo to enhanced status quo, right through to the other end of Kaipara District Council and a multi-council controlled organisation, a CCO. We then went through what we call a multi-criteria analysis. It's where you sort of rate or weight each of the options, and then you score each of the options. And the next slide basically just ranks the preferred options from 1 through to 9. So you'll see that option 9, which is a KDC multi CCO, ranks the highest, followed by
That's an option 3.
Isn't that the 9, option 3?
no, so 1 is the highest.
Wow, okay.
Ah,
And that's hidden by the, yeah.
1's the highest.
no.
Anyway,
One is the preferred option.
we'll come to that. Well, that's what we're going to have to talk about, Mr. Mayor.
Yeah, I know.
It's flanked out again.
Well, you drive it.
Hide stuff from us, you two.
You drive it. You drive it.
Please rank them in the ones with the last one. Yeah. One.
You going to the next slide?
No, see you there. Can you drive? So, Mr. Mayor, it goes from council, Kaipara to multi. Then we just do a Northland option. We do a council with another council option, and then single CCO. So you can see that 7, 8 and 9 are highest ranked, and that's where the concentration of the discussion needs to be held. Next slide. I won't talk about this, basically just repeats what I just said, but the last point is quite important, Mr. Mayor. Whilst the Kaipara CCO was ranked the 6th, just because of scale, we're small council, small rate base, we still think there's merit in developing a council controlled organisation or establishing a council controlled organisation. Now, this is a conversation that we need to have in PECS, and there's quite a bit of work that the team have to do before we come to you with that option. But again, just on the basis of no surprises, there is a potential that we establish an organisation. Further discussion to be held once we get a bit more clarity, and it's got to be in a closed session.
Ready for questions? You want to complete?
Can we just continue to go through? Because
Go.
so as part of the delivery option, we also had to look at our capital, because our capital drives the price path. And so you will recall, Mr. Mayor, that we trimmed our CapEx in the LTP. We're down to 32 million. We needed something like 150 million. Obviously, this just was not affordable. So the other thing that we have done, or I've done, is looked at a number of scenarios. Now, you will recall, Mr. Mayor, a figure of 600 million that we really do need. Within the NTDA, we were sort of given 475 million. We've even taken it down and really narrowed it down to, well, what is the must-dos, right? So, and keep in mind, this is over the next decade, the must-do. So we've done a scenario of 352 million and 475 million. So we go to the next.
That was 475, that's $475 per
Million.
wasn't it?
Million.
Total.
Yeah, to ignore the,
Because just as it not You got after the.
Yeah.
decimal point.
Ignore that. There's millions at the top. So this is what it looks like, Mr. Mayor. So with the so this is a domestic, so residential. So you can sort of see that the black line represents Kaipara CCO on its own at 475 million. The blue line below that is a KDC CCO, just a KDC CCO at 350 million investment. And then we get down to joint arrangements with other councils. So what we're trying to depict here, Mr. Mayor, is that with scale, we can spread the costs over a greater population. We've also got capacity to basically debt headroom. So the combination of those gets you a more smoother price path. So we haven't gone into what the organisations look like, the green, yellow and the green dotted. What we've done is we've just said, well, as we get scale, potentially we can get a smoother price path. I guess I just want to talk a little bit about the green line in the middle there. That's doing a shared services arrangement or a contract arrangement with another council. So again, just leveraging off procurement and some other opportunities to gain some efficiencies to try and smoothen the price path. So that's what that graph looks like. And if we go to the next one, and that's the non-domestic. So that's our commercial using the same scenarios that we have. Matt, did you want to add anything?
No, not really. This is running the organisation, to the bone. We really pushed hard on the 350. I really pushed and quite hard on lining up each of those projects that's listed in the 350 against the new environmental standards that are coming through. There's a new sheriff in town who's an environmental regulator, and he's got a deputy who's an economic regulator, and there's some quite substantial legislation coming for them. The expectation is that the first leg of the water services delivery plan, or the first test, is that water services will be delivered up to acceptable standards. So it's at this stage viewed as mandatory, not discretionary, that the network will have to be delivered. And sort of joining together with scale, there are some efficiencies, but also in the ability to access debt. And so I've used the Standard & Poor's credit rating methodology to look and see, as you manoeuvre through the different structuring options, is there an element of debt that's available to the council to take away some of the pain of delivering those projects? Now, I get asked by my other council clients, because I've got a couple of clients around the country, if you bring in debt, don't you bring in more cost? And yes, that's true. If you do bring in debt into a closed loop system, you will introduce interest, so prices will have to go up. However, you've got a mandatory level of capital investment which needs to be delivered, and so you will need to borrow for that. If you can borrow more, then your prices won't need to go up as high. And as you complete projects, there will be looking towards a cheaper network to run. So an investment in a network that's straining is theoretically more expensive to run, whereas a network that's more updated, more modern, more sophisticated, and more robust is cheaper to run. So as a result of increasing capital investment, you will need to borrow, so you will bring an interest into that financial model. However, there will be cost out that's available to you. And the more you aggregate with other councils in a CCO environment, the more favourable the rating agencies, not government policy, but a rating agency will view. If everyone follows that?
Yeah, thanks, Matt.
Thank you.
So we talked about this. There will be some new environmental standards for wastewater coming through. Next slide.
Can I ask a quick question before we go to questions? Those environmental standards that are going to cost us more, are they standards that are gold standards compared to what, I mean, we're not getting people tipping over with water poisoning in the district now, for example. So where is it taking us to a new standard that government wants rather than what we need?
They've taken away some parts of the previous legislation to make it more to make it less onerous on councils.
It's drinking water,
Less onerous, okay.
Overall, not so much drinking water, more wastewater.
Yeah, it'll be a more robust system.
Yeah. The bill talks about that. It repeals some parts of the water services led the introduction of Te Mata Arawai. And so by doing that, they're indicating that we should be a little bit more flexible in that sense. I'll just finish these off. So they're also looking at doing an engineering design standard nationally for the three waters, which is something that the DIA had previously worked on. So I think that would be a good thing for across the whole country. And this is where I think we basically rubber hits the road, Mr. Mayor. So we will need to decide on two service delivery models and consult on the preferred through the community, and we'll talk about the consultation process a little bit later on. One of the models must be the existing service delivery model, and the other must be some form of water CCO or joint arrangements with other councils. So we are putting up a straw man of three, doing a shared services contract arrangements with a single council or multi-council, so just leaving our doors open to explore that relationship. A Northland multi-CCO, or existing delivery services, although noting that it's not financially affordable. So whilst it may be financially sustainable, it's not affordable. So we just need to be clear on when we do that. And I have spoken to you about setting up a council control organisation early in the new year. And this may provide a pathway for our future. But we will have that conversation in the coming months as we journey through each of these and get some feedback today from yourselves. And obviously more work needs to be thought through on the establishment of the CCO. So next step is note the report, Mr. Mayor. Want some feedback on the delivery models, and then obviously we're going to have to do more workshops during November, December, come up with the two preferred delivery models prior to going out to consultation, either as part of the annual plan or a little bit later on, but still meeting the deadline of submitting the water services delivery plan by September 2025. So it is important, Mr. Mayor, that we do get a little bit of feedback today in terms of what the elected members are thinking. It'll help us shape the conversation for future workshops.
Okay, I've got questions from Councillor Lambert, Councillor Williams, Councillor Paniora.
And me.
Councillor Naya and Councillor Howard. Where you go, Councillor Lambert.
Through the mayor, I've got two questions.
Disability cloak on or something.
Oh, I'm sorry,
Everyone.
everyone.
And when we talk about these entities, is there a combination, or have we got a wastewater, stormwater and drinking water? Have they all got to be bundled into the one package?
Through you, Mr. Mayor. So water, wastewater, most definitely. And then council has the ability to continue to run its stormwater or contract that out to the organisation. So we would still collect the rates or the revenue for stormwater and pass it through to the organisation to run and maintain the system.
Because that leads on to my next question. We've got all these drainage schemes which look after their own stormwater and on rural properties.
land drainage,
Sorry?
land drainage,
Land drainage schemes, yes.
it's not urban stormwater.
I never said that.
You did say
Well,
stormwater.
that's technicality. Where you go?
Okay, so we've got these drainage schemes where I contribute to a drainage scheme because there's runoff from my property into that area. Okay, so I already look after that. So that's why I don't contribute anything to stormwater, because I do it in that means and I look after it on my property. When you talk about the Kaipara district, 75% of the households here look after their own water and septic system and their own stormwater system, as I do. And I've spent a lot of money on my systems and I spend a lot of time and effort on maintaining it, as those other 75% of the people do. So would we be expected, or would we be forced to pay into this scheme? And if we're not, and you accumulate debt, which the ratepayers have to pay back, we by default are doing it, aren't we? So do we get any compensation for what we've spent already on our system to be, do you know what I mean?
Yes.
This is going to be what's going to come up in consultation, so it's quite a hairy subject in this district.
Yeah, through you, Mr. Mayor, I think that's a conversation for another day. As we start to understand a little bit more detail around what our future looks like, and then we start to bring on all those difficult areas that are nuanced to our district. And just to say, land drainage is not included within the legislation.
Because
Can I just jump in there, Anand?
Yeah, just very briefly, Matt.
Yeah, certainly. Look, I think I asked the question, will you be forced into anything? The answer is no. The pricing on how you set up your CCO will be determined by you, the elected members. So you'll be setting up, constitutions and negotiations. And if there's things that you really want, so if it's a user pays model, then that's something you bring into the conversation.
And on that subject, Matt, we're not going to do it with only 6,000 households in this district having to pay for that amount of structure, are we? So we're going to have to join with others, aren't we?
Well, through you, Mr. Mayor, the graphs clearly indicate the pathway or proposed pathway. So,
because of accumulating debt to do it, you are getting those who aren't in the scheme to pay for it.
There's limited
Local
things in the legislation that you will have to meet, the financial sustainability test, and that determines revenue sufficiency. How you go about getting revenue sufficiency, i.e. the pricing, will be as our legislation. It's up to you to set about.
The next.
Okay, next question, Councillor Williams.
Through the chair. And talking of the model that we would decide on, are you in discussions with other Northland councils, and have you got a feel for where they're wanting to go with?
Yeah, through you, Mr. Mayor, we are having discussions with our fellow councils. No direction at the moment.
Just so you know, the Northland Forward Together meeting, I think on the 18th of November, local waters time will be an item there, and we'll have a bit of a broader conversation amongst all the elected members from Northland. I'm going to kill it.
Okay, Councillor Paniora, you had a question.
Oh, yeah, I had a sort of similar sort of question, but because the top three options are contingent on us forming with other councils. So
What if they don't want it?
what if they don't want to?
Why would they?
Why would they?
We've got a bloody good.
We're saying if we only want to contribute 25% of our ratepayers to the scheme, which we're going to benefit from. So what's our selling point on that? Obviously needs to be collectively with the other councils. That's the only. I mean, these are scary numbers if we're out on our own. They're really scary numbers, and I think one way or another, all of our ratepayers will have to shoulder this because we have to have the borrowing capacity, and we have to include all of our ratepayers within that. So we can't, if we're going to carve the 75% out, then we're carving out our borrowing capacity. So I just don't know how we're not going to be tying all of our ratepayers up in this. So that's the first.
So through you, Mr. Mayor, I mean, today is briefing the elected members on proposals. And that's why I said, you know, if we can get some clearer direction, then the chief executive can start to open up conversations.
We need some clear direction before we can give you some clear direction. So that's the first point I just wanted to make. There was another point. Now I've probably forgotten it. Come back to me, please, though.
Through Mr. Mayor, if I can just quickly, Anna, can you jump back to the slide possibly to the options?
Not going to you've given us.
So there is a lot of information here, I agree. And there's a
That's what it was. So we already had asset management plans and different things conducted through the last Labor government. And so is there anything that we can pull out of those papers that we can still use to meet the September deadlines and
Yeah, through you, Mr. Mayor, yes.
give us better, because what I'm really interested to see is the risk profile on us linking in with the other councils. Is it going to be a similar scenario to what happened with the roading and when we had so many issues, you know, combining and ensuring that we were getting our value out of that, you know, out of that. So, you know, the numbers all look well and good, but, you know, when we have to say, well, this infrastructure is breached or needs to be repaired, and then we're like, oh, well, line up because we've got 1,000 other jobs to complete. I'd love to see that.
Do you want to answer that? Yeah, so through you, Mr. Mayor, it's a standalone organisation. So there's no interference from council. If we go down a CCO, it will be a board of directors that appoint a chief executive and get on and deliver that business. If it's a standalone business unit, again, it's ring fence and there's no interference from council.
So in here as well, so we're trying to get some direction from you as a council, and you know, I mean, obviously it's difficult as well because there's 10 different people with different opinions around the table. Then we also have to allow the process to continue with the other councils in Northland and perhaps beyond also. So there's a lot of sort of massaging, a lot of work that needs to be going on in the background here to try and get this to happen too. And what is on the screen in front of you and what has been provided in the paperwork is trying to give you clear direction on the options that we think we need to consult on with the community, right? So we are giving you that clear direction. we just need you to see whether or not you support that. And to the other point, Councillor Paniora, the Minister has been quite clear that no council will be left behind. And I think that's a quote in there. We need to go through the process with our other councils first, and you as a council too, see if we can get some resolution or some agreement on a shared option, if possible. I think at some stage, the Minister, if a council is being left behind, may need to step in. Don't want that to happen. We want to try and get through this first collaboratively with our neighbours, if possible. But that is a possible outcome, I suppose.
Okay, questions from Councillor Naya.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So my question is obviously, we have a blank slate, I guess. We have no projects to talk to other councils. We are talking 2 waters, I guess, not 3 waters. We're talking the drinking water and the wastewater, right? So what you're gonna achieve if you have nothing to talk about to the neighboring councils? That's my concern. And the second concern, obviously, is these 10 or 20, whatever theoretical models you have, is not going to help us. It all depends on what the next council thinks about which model. So I think the way forward is to first talk to the. I was speaking to Simon Weston, who is on the advisory committee for local wealth. Yeah. And I suspect much is being done without our knowledge anyway. So the CEs of different councils are talking on these terms to go forward, right? And maybe it's a good idea to see, for the CE to come back to us, which councils are actually agreeable to have a conversation with us. And then we can talk about the projects which we can do. So I mean, in terms of direction, I think if you're asking which model to go, it doesn't make sense because we don't know which one they want. So I would say start from north forward, come out with some options, and then we can talk about it.
Mr Mayor, through you, we've got options on the table. They're on the screen in front of you. I don't want to repeat that. We've done a lot of work to get to this point. Your point about projects, we have got a lot of projects that we've been talking about as part of the LTP. And in fact, the previous item is a good example of that. There are projects in there. There is a lot of growth we need to deal with. There's a lot of repairs and remediation to make sure we maintain our assets, and we have old assets that we need to fix. That is all being programmed out.
So, okay, I'm reiterating my, sorry, I'm reiterating my point. The point to start off is to find a council. And if you fail, then you go to step 2. Because, yeah.
We don't know exactly where we're going to fall because we've got a lot of negotiations with other people. And I see, Anand, in your presentation, you were talking about a Crown facilitator. So they're obviously anticipating that sort of support might be required, not just a facilitator, but experts in their field too. So it's a process, and we're trying to give direction on where we're going with that. I mean, I reckon initially my option 1 was one that appeals to me. Shared contract services arrangements so that we have an initial process where we have a little bit of control and then see how it unfolds by the way government pushes us around, essentially. Okay, the next question is from Councillor Howard.
Hey, Mr Mayor, thanks, Arlen. All very interesting. I have to say I agree entirely with the Mayor on option 1. I think that at the end of the day, actually we've got some exciting projects, and we've got, as we've heard today, some wonderful plaudits in a certain wastewater scheme that we have. But I think that the answer to a lot of this really stands on 2 points. One, the graphs that are presented here today that show where the real benefit is ultimately for our ratepayers. And 2, in the pitch that we have to make, because that's what it is in going out and talking to other councils, wherever, whatever they may be. So I think that, those are positives. I do have a specific question on funding. So if we went with an option 1, and let's say we ended up with 250,000 ratepayer base units, households in that collective, and we needed to borrow, well, we were part of a borrowing, but our contribution was, let's say 30 or what is it, 250, was 25 million. Would we in the plan be charged the full 25 million is just as a share, or would it be apportioned across the whole CCO?
Through Chair, Councillor, can you just clarify the 25 million?
If just say we had to borrow 25 million for a project and there was 250,000 ratepayer units in the CCO.
Okay, I'll attempt to answer it, Mr Mayor. So the benefit you get with joining up with other councils is what they term a harmonised price path.
Yep.
So everybody basically pays the same. The other one is, you don't harmonise your former CCO, but you don't harmonise your price paths. So you still borrow yourself and you yourself.
Yep.
But the benefits of CCO is with scale and harmonisation. That's where you get a smoother price path.
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay, next question from Aaron Watson Collins, followed by Jonathan Larson, followed by Gordon Emmerich.
Okay, cool.
Then me.
Then Mark.
Don't forget Mark.
Oh, were you prime?
No, I wasn't. If I could be next on the list, that's all.
Okay.
I just have some questions for clarification about the presentation that you've given today, just to make sure that I understand. So I'm on the financial modelling slide, where you showed the $32 for the 32 million, sorry, that decimal point's distracting us again. The 32, the 3-year LTP, and then the 352, and then the 475. So my first question, I just want to double check I heard this right. So the 32 million is what's in our LTP. The 475 million is what, if we were going to entity A, that's what we said we needed done. And then the 352 is like we've pulled it back, so it really is just what has to be done to meet the environment and, yeah, okay. Impact, right, and growth, yes. And then in the households column, it says 9,091, so that's spread across the entire dish.
No,
No, Matt, that's spread across.
The 91.
We
Right, we only had about 15,000.
we had 16.5.
Right.
Yeah, so
10.5 rate paying.
That's on.
Paying.
what I mean is there's not 9,091 properties on water services.
we use like that. I'm sorry.
Water or sewage.
Actually, modelling table and an
82.
profile.
Two of, yeah, I don't know if that helps. This one.
Okay.
Come on there. Up there.
That one on the screen.
Yeah, so he spread it over. You still there, Matt? He spread it over 9,000 households that pay water and or wastewater.
Some got water. We've got water and
10 years.
sewage.
Right.
No, it's
Okay.
a combination of other water, wastewater.
So that equals 9,091 properties. Okay. So then, a question about your next slide and the slide after that, but it's the same question. So when you've done the financial modelling and we're looking at the options that include other councils in with us, does this financial modelling include their cost, like their financial modelling, for want of another word, like
Yeah.
if yeah.
Yeah,
Yep.
no, correct. So that number is, the capital investment, and I kind of provide that based on an estimation of the households that I can provide just to see what the cost is per household. And then, because I've got quite a few other councils around the country, I'm having a look at that cost per household and just sort of seeing if someone's high or low or what the story is.
Yeah.
When it comes to the three councils, I've modelled three single council CCOs, then brought them together and then looked at the benefits that you would get just by your share presence in a council. And what I've tried to do is get away from cross-subsidisation, but just saying what benefits is there from aggregating that aren't there from being alone, and that's to do with your leverage and your efficiency, and then allocating the benefits so every council's better off than going alone. And that's up for negotiation how you do your price path.
Yeah.
Can I just cut in there? So we've used the word indicative because we haven't done specific modelling, but we've done it on a scenario of population base. And so
And other councils like if we've got 352 million that we
there's some
indication of what they need to
there-
put it all together.
there's some estimation in there around that, but we don't have the full data set. So the three lines below the 350 and the 475 are really just indicative of what could happen if we were to join up with other organisations.
Okay, and then my final question, thank you. Why is there such a big, help me out, why is there such a big difference between the Northland multi-council CCO and an indicative KDC and multi-council CCO?
Sorry, between the yellow and the blue?
And the yellow dash and the green dash, what's the difference?
Yeah,
What is an indicative KDC?
Oh, sorry, hang on just 1 second, Matt.
Yeah, and this
1 second, Matt. Sorry, can you just maybe give me the colour lines?
Yeah, so there's the yellow dash
Hello.
and the green dash,
Yeah.
the very bottom one and then the top. But so when you say indicative KDC and multi-councils, is that councils outside of Northland?
Oh, it could be. It could be any large council that want to join up collectively to form scale. So,
Okay.
and that's what I'm saying. It's indicative, but it's indicative of a larger organ,
Just need to understand, we're looking outside of Northland.
and it's just population.
Yeah. Gotcha. Thank you very much for answering my questions.
Okay, councillor Vincent.
Oh, I thought councillor Lambeth was next.
No, you asked to be next, so I put you in. I put you in between.
Pushing in.
Aaron was
Thank you.
wasn't deputy last. That's
Okay.
but
I did have some questions sitting here, I just didn't get around to raising my hand.
Me too.
Firstly, does the new legislation give a definition of financially sustainable?
Yes.
Okay, because I could see on the one hand, we could make the numbers work in terms of, well, we'll just charge the users whatever it takes to make the books balance, but you're not necessarily going to have very happy customers. And so I'll look that up then in the legislation.
Yeah, and through you, Mr. Mayor, that's why I said when we do consult, it's not affordable. So whilst it might, you're right, financially sustainable, but it's not affordable.
Okay, obviously I would have thought if it wasn't affordable, it wouldn't be financially sustainable, but there you go. What do I know? The other question is, do you think that the people that put this legislation together took into account, in terms of their timing, another event which happens in September next year, i.e. the opening of nominations for local body elections, and the fact that my understanding was that normally we shouldn't be doing anything too significant from about June onwards in terms of decisions which could be potentially controversial.
Through you, Mr. Mayor.
I don't know if that's a strict legal question, but
I can answer it if you want.
yeah,
Yeah, so the pre-election period starts 3 months prior to the election, but you are able to make all decisions needed as far as the work plan up until the election, if you wish. Now, remember, the Water Services Delivery Plan is a statute. We have to deliver it by September. We have to meet that, so you'll be required to meet it.
yeah, well, I guess my question was more about, well, was that something that the government might have taken into account?
I'm sure they have.
Very good. I wish I had the same faith as you on that.
Thank you, Deputy Larson.
Thank you, Your Worship. Just, I was going to give my thoughts very, very briefly. The day is dragging on. And I heard earlier some talk about how do we pitch ourselves to other councils that don't want us. So I don't think we need to, because we go and reach our hand out to them and try and be friends. If no one wants to be friends with us, well then the central government will tell them what to do with us, and they're better off to be in control of their own destiny rather than have someone else telling them how to do it. So I think that they will come reluctantly to the party. And so I say let's go and hold hands with our biggest and most powerful neighbour that can hopefully give us as much harmonisation or cross subsidisation or whatever we can manage to wrangle. And so yeah, let's be bold and step towards them, I say.
Kumbaya and three-part harmony, yes.
Too many Americanites.
Okay. Councillor Lambert.
Yes, thank you for the extra one. I mentioned before about the three different wastewater, water supply and stormwater. Wastewater, even Councillor Vincent said, who would want to join with us? Because our wastewater septic systems are in bad shape and of small supply, all scattered all over the place. So it's a huge burden. Our water supply, from what I see, and you can correct me anytime I'm wrong here, we could be on the winner here. It's not that much to set up compared to other problems, and we have achievable goals there. But what concerns me is some talk I've heard about giving away our stormwater ACE. 62% of Northland's catchment comes down that Northern Wye River, not all ours. There are other councils up there that need us. If we give this to the regional council, we've lost our biggest bargaining tool. Because somehow Hikaringi Swamp has got to get rid of their water during a storm.
Okay.
And it's got to come through us. And they've got to recognise that. And if they're going to cut us off, they've got a major problem. But if we give this to the Northern Regional Council to manage, we've lost our biggest aces in our hand.
Sorry, but just through you, Mr. Mayor, you're talking about the land drainage and land drainage and is out of legislation. It's not part of this legislation.
So stormwater is not part of it.
No, stormwater is urban stormwater is part of the legislation.
Only urban stormwater, nothing else.
Land drainage.
Oh dear.
I wasn't referring to NRC as our biggest.
Yeah, no,
No.
no.
No, I'm talking about our
Don't wanna
neighbours
go
that share the Kaipara Harbour and other assets, yeah, that's what I'm.
So when you say biggest, you mean Auckland, not WTC?
I think Auckland's bigger than Whangarei, so I could be
Yeah,
wrong.
just slightly.
What about our neighbor?
They are our neighbour.
Yeah.
Our neighbor, Dargaville, Western, they're too far. Okay.
Not the same district.
District's neighbour.
Sorry?
Scale.
Hey, let's wind this up, eh?
Yep, that'd be good. Just if we just back to that one slide, please, Anna. I think it's about
Gotta be Auckland.
important slide. Thank you for that. I didn't hear anything against these options up here.
No, that's
We choose one option.
our options for consultation, yes.
Support option one.
Yeah.
No, just our options for consultation.
Oh, okay, option
All
consultation.
those options are,
We, through Mr. Mayor, we need two and we need to have a preferred.
Oh.
And also,
Yeah, existing.
So, yeah.
But aren't we going to go deeper into these?
well, we will, sorry, councillor, we will talk about the existing, but we'll have to talk about the affordability component. Now, that's something that we need to work through with DIA in a bit of detail. So we will have to put it up, but we will have to, at some stage during November and or December, council will need to make a call whether they want to put that up. And my understanding at the moment is that they can choose not to put it forward, but that's got to be a council decision.
Well, my feedback is go to Auckland Council and look at option one.
Well, that's the direction you provided, Chief Executive, so it's,
yep, let's put it to bed.
Might get you back again.
keep in
Doesn't
mind,
look like option 3 is an option we want to look at.
We have to.
I thought you said we had two options to pick from.
so we have to consider the existing. My understanding, and need to do a little bit of work with DIA, is council can make a decision not to put that as a preferred option on the basis of affordability. I need to confirm that, which brings us down to two, and then we need to nominate a preferred. Now, keep in mind, option one could also mean other councils. So we don't,
Need to geographically, do they?
they don't need to be.
No, it's a bizarre sort of thing.
Yeah. Could be Gore, Christchurch, City Council.
I've got one question. Is there any council in New Zealand that doesn't have any issues?
Wellington doesn't have any.
Southern Islands.
Okay, look, I think we're clear there where we're going, so there you go, Arden, thank you.
Well, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Look, thank you for direction. We will take that away and we'll do some more work with the Department of Internal Affairs, give them a bit of direction in terms of where we're heading. We'll obviously need to do, I just want to have a quick conversation, Mr. Mayor, around establishing a council-controlled organisation. So we'll also need to consider that as a suite of options, although it sits outside the consultation process, but that's something that we would like to explore and come back with more details in a closed session.
Thank you.
Very good.
Thank you.
Thanks, Matt.
Okay, thank you, Anand.
Thanks, mate. Hey, cheers.
Cheers, guys. See you.
5 minute break for
Even a 5-minute break.
5 minute break for a toilet stop and then we're into it.
Oh, they're open? Yeah.
Yeah.
Thanks,